Banco Beverage. Proudly serving the Lehigh Valley for over 80 years. It's 80 years. Say it with me. 80 years. It's a long time. Over 30 plus breweries distributed, including Miller, Yuengling, Pabst, Guinness, Heineken, plus a generous variety of imported and specialty brands. They are located at Crackersport Road in Allentown, PA. Can't get any more local than that, Lehigh Valley. Banco Beverage is locally owned, operated since 1933. They have an exceptional team of staff dedicated to making their customers happy. If you're interested in having Banco be your purveyor for whatever bar or establishment you own, you can go to www.bancobeverage.com. I have the information in the ads as well, and I want to thank Banco for coming on and being a sponsor. Myself and Tony are working on some projects, and we are going to be bringing some really cool content, as well as Banco is going to be providing for a lot of the things that we do event-wise. So thank you, Banco, again. Thank you, Tony, and check out Banco Beverage. Giacomo's Italian Market. What an awesome relationship that has blossomed between Never Again Studio and Giacomo's Italian Market. We've been working with them with Studio Kitchen. We've been doing their Italian sausage and going to pop-ups with them. I love Sal. I love all the guys over there. It's always awesome collaborating. And you should go check them out. They got specialty Italian items. They're famous for the cheesesteak, the sausage. I can't even list everything because everything over there on that menu is fantastic. It's a home run. They are in Easton, PA, 700 Cattell Street. That's 700 Cattell Street in Easton, PA. They are over by College Hill. It's a dope area to check out. You need to go there. They got plenty of inside seating. They got all kinds of specialty Italian things off to the side, a pasta, vodka sauce. I usually just go there because I'm not making it as good as Sal. So I pick up my vodka sauce and, I say, what's up? We got some oils and all kinds of different things. But I can't say nothing but positive things over at Giacomo's. If you know them, you know them. If you don't know them, you're crazy and you need to get over there. That's 700 Cattell Street in Easton. That's Giacomo's Italian Market. Tell Sal what's up. The Curious Plantaholic, located in Nazareth and Clinton, New Jersey. The Nazareth location was opened first, and I met Jenny. We immediately hit it off. I knew we would start working on projects. She is the energy and the breath of fresh air that Nazareth needs. I started buying plants off of her, went down a rabbit hole. Now I got a bunch of plants I got to take care of. I'm trying my hardest. People are helping me. What an awesome shop for plants, retail. The energy in there is amazing. The employees in there are amazing. It's a plant and supply store focused on connecting with local communities, and boy, do they do a fantastic job at that. I can't say enough about these guys. You need to go to their locations and check them out, but they also have plants for sale online. It's thecuriousplantaholic.com, and right now they have 2 locations, which is Nazareth, and the other one is Clinton, New Jersey. Please check them out, and you can get more information at curiousplantaholic.com. I'm going to be working with Jenny on some other projects as well, so you will see us kind of creating a vibe and some things going on in Nazareth. We're really going to help kind of revitalize and get some things going on in Nazareth. So if you want to, please check out the Curious Plantaholics in Nazareth. Support local, support us. They support the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on as a sponsor. Radio. I have no clue what episode this is. You are here. You are here. We talked about doing this. I've been bothering you to podcast for months, and I was like, yo, whenever you come home, I genuinely have so many questions. I've known you from homeroom at Notre Dame High School, and I did not know that you were that creative. I did not know that you had an itch for art. I did not know you were this person that I eventually saw grow into on social media. Where does this story take place, and where the hell did you start getting into art?
Let's see.
Cheers, by the way.
Cheers.
I'm so thankful you hit me up when you came home.
Dude, I'm stoked. Well, let's see. Yes, we did know each other in high school, but we weren't like in the same circle.
No.
But
I had a weird circle.
Yeah, and you were like on the on the outside of the cool circle, and I was like, that guy seems pretty cool, but I'm intimidated by him, and like,
Yeah,
we just never overlapped.
I
Like,
came there weird, like, because I came from full public school to never wearing a uniform. So then, like, it's funny because I was like talking to Kevin Patton about this. Like, I had the cheetah print on my book bag straps, and I wore my Doc Martens. Like, I was trying so hard to express myself outside of their code, and it worked because they couldn't. Like, the shoes looked good, but like the cheetah print, they were just like, what are you doing? And that was so obscure to do that. And I remember that's how I stuck out. But then, like, I didn't really get into any groups with anybody because, like, everybody was already friends because they already came from private school.
Yeah, whatever school they came from, they just stayed in that.
And then, like, I tell everybody, if we weren't in uniforms, I don't think I would have talked to half the people I did. Like, I became friends with Nat at a time where it was still like a jock and skater thing. So like I didn't realize that Nat was the football guy, the basketball guy. I didn't know that his name meant that much in sports to the school. And then when I found out that, you can't really go back to not being on Friends. Like I think I poked fun at him one time, but I think we started really getting along in theology class when we were just fucking with the teacher. So like I had these little weird groups, but then at the same time I had my friends from Nazareth, and then I had my friends that my mom was trying to keep me away from by sending me over there. So like by the end of the time when I graduated, like I feel like as a homeroom we were all integrated, like Sam and like I remember our homeroom the most, and it was a cool homeroom, but like I didn't hang out with anybody really outside of it except for Mariano, but that was towards the end because he was giving me rides to school.
Right.
So I was kind of odd there.
Yeah. It was an odd time.
Yeah. But everyone else was like integrated already.
Right.
I was a transplant.
You were the new guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so after high school I thought that I did really well in science class. In like Mrs. God, she was married to the guy who was like this history teacher.
Fenton.
Yeah, Mrs. Fenton.
Yeah.
I got like straight A's, so I was like, I guess I'm going to study science. So I went to the school in the middle of Pennsylvania that was like a science school. And as soon as I started taking classes, I was like, whoops, like this isn't, I thought I was good, but like I'm not feeling this. And they had a tiny art department, and because it was not an art school, but it was so awesome because it was so intimate that I got extra attention, and like all the classes were small. And
Did you have to switch to the art classes?
I switched to art, and they did have an art major, so it worked out. And so when I was there, I studied abroad in Florence, Italy, and that's where I learned how to do printmaking and etching.
You learned how to do that in Italy?
Yeah, and I came back to my school, and
let's back it up because everyone does this. You went to Italy and got to learn art. Let's hang out there in a little bit. What the hell was that like?
It was the most amazing thing I've ever done.
How long were you there for? And was it with the art class?
It was for a full school year, and it was an independent college. It was like an international art school in Italy that you could maneuver your way into it from any college, basically.
That's crazy.
So I went there for my junior year.
Was there other people from your college that went with you?
No, I didn't know anybody.
Solo. That's kind of, it's always probably nerve-wracking and a little scary, but that is the best way to get into stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're forced to either completely dive into what you're going for, or you're forced to interact with people that you wouldn't have interacted with because you would have had a crutch of a friend going through it.
Exactly. Yeah, so it was really nice to just be like, okay, I guess I'm here. And then
that's so crazy. Where did you stay?
They have these amazing apartments just in Florence. They're just apartments, beautiful, like terracotta floors, gorgeous. And I stayed with like 3 other students, so we just had our own.
What's that like waking up? Do you feel like you were on the right path as to what you wanted to do in life when you were waking up in Italy and being like, this is so cool.
And like, buongiorno. Like,
that's all I would say. Buongiorno.
Awesome. Yeah, it's gorgeous. All the streets are cobblestone. You're like, there's like birds singing. It is unbelievable. There's art everywhere you look because it's so old.
And that's, you were there for a year?
A year, yeah.
And that's a long time. So that's got to like, you can't not take that in because you're there for a year.
That was like, it was one of the best things I've ever done. And when I came back to school in the middle of Pennsylvania, like, it was wholly changed. And all of my friends suddenly went from like regular Americans to all the international students because I was like, everyone's cool. And we had this international student gang, which was the most fun. We partied way better than anybody else at the school. Yeah, but that was life-changing. And then when I got back, my college had all the equipment for printmaking, but they didn't have a class because they didn't have enough people.
So when you were there, was it just like it was like set up to learn printing, or you went there and then you could choose what you were doing, or you specifically went there to learn how to print?
In Italy? Or,
yeah.
No, they just had a bunch of classes like ceramics, textiles, and printing.
Man, so you were doing different stuff every day.
Yeah.
And then still getting to like go out and check out the culture. What did you eat when you were there? And then I'll let you leave Italy.
So much bread, wine.
Yeah.
Like, it's unbelievable. It's insane. It was just so easy to dive into the culture.
Is it as different, the living style there, with more relaxed and it's not stressful? And it just, from the more people I talk to, and I do want to visit, it just sounds like their way of life is so much simpler and not as crazy as how we live.
Yeah, they truly enjoy like taking breaks and socializing and spending time at dinner. Like a dinner it's not a hour. It's like you're sitting down, you're hanging out and talking, and it's different. It's remarkable, and it kind of like makes you change the way you look at it.
Yeah.
Like how we just do everything so fast over here.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So then when you started doing the printing, did that stick out of everything that was kind of like the thing that you really like to do?
That was the thing I really liked to do. And then came back to Pennsylvania. We had all the equipment for printmaking, but we didn't have a class. We didn't have a teacher. So I finagled my way into doing an independent study where I just did art for the year, used all the equipment, went to the science building and charmed the science guys to make acid for me so I could etch the plates. And it just worked out that I could do the work there. And then I had like a show at the end of the year. It was awesome.
So you basically built your own class.
Yeah, it was there.
How did you talk them into that? Were you
I
like,
was just like, hey, I want to do this. But like we have all this stuff, but there's no teachers. Like, yeah, if you do this, tell me what you're going to do, what's going to come out of it. Let's do it. So
yeah,
it was awesome.
That must have felt cool after leaving that meeting and walking back, coming from Italy, and then being like, I just talked them into me being able to do whatever I want all year, and then all I have to do is put on an art show.
Yeah, and I
graduate.
Key to the art studio. Nobody else had it. Just me. I could go any time of day. It was just like, I don't know how I got this, but this is awesome. And so that's where my love of printmaking started, and then flourished there. And then after college, I decided I wanted to
I want to stop.
Yeah.
Only because I'm so interested in it, and I want to pick your brain. What was a day like when you got to go in there and you had your rhythm down and you were working on paint? Did you go in there? Did you have a set time? Did you just kind of let it naturally happen? Did you listen to music? Like, how did you fall in love with the process of printing?
Yeah, it was all, I could go in anytime. I still had like other classes to finish up, but like that was free reign. So I usually went in at night.
That probably made it so much easier to get through the other classes.
So much easier. And that was like it was like having a space like this where you could just go and hang out.
It's hard to explain, but when this and what this has done, and I didn't realize, like, it's a studio. I'm like, I've created things down here, and I never knew I needed that until, I'm explaining to you what I've done, and I'm sounding like a madman because I've just got lost in a passion down here that has erupted into what I can choose to do for a living. And then so that's why, like, I'm like, what did you do in that space?
Yeah, that's what I did. I like hung out and I was like, this feels right.
Yeah.
How can I do this for my life?
And it was just you in that space.
Just me. And then like the second semester, there was a guy who did painting. So he would show up there, but we barely crossed paths.
Yeah.
And
Like, get out of here,
yeah.
buddy.
Yeah. Sometimes I'd go down and there would be like weird music and I'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Did you play music the whole time?
Yeah.
What do you listen to?
totally random stuff. Like I remember whenever I hear like Portishead or something,
Yeah.
I was like, that's what I was listening to at
Yeah.
that time. Like,
Music is my favorite thing, and I don't ever stop listening to it. Like when the last guy left, and then I always like to have music playing when people come down here, just because I like to set a mood and a tone, and I also feel comfortable because music is constantly playing. But like I never understood like how awesome it was till like it's the only thing that can literally through sound take you back to moments you've lived in life. And like I have playlists from when I worked in kitchens, and like I would time them to like there's an hour left and the guys in the kitchen would know by a song coming on. Like music is one of the few things that like will literally you can time travel by just listening to a song.
yeah, totally. So after that, I applied to go to school, the Glasgow School of Art in Scotland, to keep studying printmaking.
I love where does the need from travel and all that
I don't
come
know.
from?
It's just sort of a bug, and I was like, it's so different to go to a different country and immerse yourself in the culture day to day, and also be learning. It's just a different feeling of.
I love it because I mean, when we were in high school, like you were quiet,
Yeah.
and like I knew you, and like you were interesting, and the times that we've interacted, I've always enjoyed it, and I've never had a negative perspective of you. But then to see what you're doing, that's why I'm so intrigued, because you were so quiet, and then now I'm like, oh my god, this person who is sitting next to me.
I have the same feeling about you. I'm like, what the fuck? I wish we were friends. We're both cool.
So then you apply to, and how old are you at the time when you want to go to Scotland?
23.
Yeah, it's a fun age.
Yeah, super fun. So Scotland, that was awesome. It was,
So you did go to
I
Scotland.
went.
That's
I went
so
to school
crazy.
there.
How was that?
It was amazing. It was dreary and rainy.
You get those dark arts,
Dark.
those
It was
moody
so
arts. Yeah.
Moody. Yes. I think I was moody there. But it was awesome. It was fun, and I made some
Was it kind of the same setup? Like you had a place to stay, and
that I stayed
or
in
were
like,
you like in a horse stable,
I stayed in
sleeping
this
on
like
hay?
awful student housing that
Yeah.
was like these little tiny concrete rooms. That was probably the most depressing part of it. Was just like, and I had to walk. Probably took 45 minutes to walk to school every day, which was fine. I enjoyed it, but like when it was raining,
Ugh.
you'd get to school and you'd be like, you'd be so drenched, you'd just be like, fuck it, I'm going home. Like it was just so, there's no way to avoid it. But
How long were you there for?
I was there for a year.
How was the food there?
Good. Lots of awesome Indian food.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah, so that was fun.
Did you go out
Yeah,
there?
went out a lot.
Yeah. What's like the nightlife there, or
It's
the bars?
interesting because everything closes at 11. So people just start drinking at like 4.
Yeah.
It's just close at 11.
Yeah, I
like,
love
oh,
how
it's
that
closed.
works. We're like,
Yeah.
11 o'clock. We don't want anyone
Yeah.
too drunk. Cool, we're
So
starting at 2.
There'd be a couple clubs open later, but 11. Yeah, it'd just be like, it just changed the night to like, you just start drinking early. And then you're at 11, you're like, I guess it's home time.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it would help with hangovers.
Yeah, you would think. Maybe.
It doesn't.
Yeah, no. That was fun. Got back.
What did you do there? Was more screen printing?
More screen. I learned every kind of printmaking, which is etching, lithography, screen printing, anything printing was cool. There was digital printing, but
Was it a level up from what you learned in Italy?
yeah, because I only learned etching.
Are you like learning reverse learning where you're learning like the origins of it? Or is this like past that? Or is that what you learned in Italy?
That's what I learned in Italy, and now I'm like applying it. And then lithography is like printing from stone, usually limestone, and then screen printing, which was fun. And I didn't know that was the one that was going to get me, which it did. So I got back, I learned a little screen printing, got the idea of it, got back, moved to Philadelphia, and all my friends ended up being in band. My sister lived there, so I kind of was integrated into her friend group, and then the friend group was bands. So I just was like, okay, I'm going to do screen printing. I'm going to set up a studio in my house. I'm going to use the bathtub to rinse out my screens. Like, I'm going to make it work. I did it, and then I started printing band posters. That's how I taught myself.
And where were you living at the time?
Philly.
Yeah. That's a good place to do
It was
this.
so good.
Yeah.
So I
loved how much, like, got a chance to go to Virginia, and I took Virginia in when I was there, and I wanted to take it in how you would. And the fact that you got to go to Italy, to Scotland, and then to come back and then go to Philly, it's like, man, you must have been so full of so much creativity and art and freedom.
Yeah.
And man,
I'm still like 25.
Yes.
Like the best time of life. Still partying.
Yeah.
Like, life's a dream. Yeah.
What part of Philly in?
That was near Fishtown.
Yeah.
Like Kensington, Northern Liberties, that neighborhood over there. So that was rad. So that was where and during this time I'm also working I got a job at Durham Press.
That's what I was going to ask if you were working at this time, because you're out of college at this point.
I'm out of college. I got a job at Durham Press, which is in Bucks County. Fucking coolest place ever. It's a contemporary art, printmaking, publishing. They have people come, artists that don't make prints. They're painters, photographers. They come to Durham Press. They stay there usually because it's in the country in like Bucks County. It's so beautiful. An hour from New York. Come, they learn how to make a print, and then we publish the prints for them. And it's contemporary art, famous people that are coming. So it's high end. It was probably the most stressful job I've ever had.
I was going to ask that.
It's like
you were probably nervous.
Blank piece of paper you're holding is $100 because it's like handmade Japanese paper. So don't fucking crease it. And but I could have skipped school. I could have just gone there. That's where I learned everything.
Yeah. It's funny. Well, I mean, I wouldn't have skipped your schooling.
No. The experience.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying is where a lot of people, and I feel like that's more relevant now because of like the way the economy is, and like, you know, when we were coming out, it's like you either went to college or you were almost looked upon, well, you better get a job somewhere good.
Right.
And it wasn't like it is now where you kind of have like a bunch of different stuff. Like it was either like there wasn't Amazon.
Right.
There wasn't really a lot of stuff. So if you didn't choose to go to college, where now I feel like it's either down the middle or less people are going to college just because of the debt. And it's like, I've learned I know what going to culinary school or what going to media school would have taught me, but at the same time I've learned enough to do what I'm doing in a fashion that's built for me by not going to school at all. So like, it's weird the way like you can, but would you have gotten that job without your degree?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Although I did do that. Whenever I get a job, my mom, she's always right. She's just like, you just go in there and tell them you want to work there. And
yeah, my mom's
so
like that.
I'm like, God, so embarrassing, but I do it, and I always get the job.
Yeah,
it's so ridiculous. But that's how I got a job there. I was like, can I come and check out? And they're like, who are you?
Yeah.
But
all that schooling probably gave you confidence to work somewhere like that,
yeah,
as opposed to
a little bit.
coming off the street,
yeah,
just being like, hey.
Right. I had a little bit of experience, but JP, who was my boss there, let me stay after work, use all the equipment to make my screens for these posters, and the more I did them, the better I got, and I didn't get paid for them.
What were you doing the posters for?
For bands, local Philly bands.
So people would see your work, or you would say, hey, and then you would just start kind of making like event posters.
It'd be like, I'd be like, can I make the poster for your show? And
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. That's fun.
And I get like 2 drink tickets and like,
yeah.
I'd be like, sweet. But so I did that, and then I noticed when I'd go to the bars and my poster would be hanging up, people would steal it.
Yeah.
Like, just mine, nobody else's. And I was like, I guess they're okay. And that was the catalyst for me being like, well, why don't I just make my own artwork and my own screen prints and sell them and see where that goes. So that's when Butcher Press was born, which was like...
Where's the name come from?
It's when I the Butcher was like the first print I ever made when I lived in Italy. Just totally random, weird little monster butcher outside of a butcher shop. And it was like, Philly, I'm 24. I'm like, we need a name for my company.
Yeah.
So that's what.
It's funny how stupid and simple the beginning is.
Yeah, and it's a super weird name, but I kind of like it because it is weird and it's quirky, and I'm also like,
It works.
it's too late to change it now.
Yeah, but it's also like the beginning of your story, you
Yeah.
know? Like that was like that time, you know, that you brushed over spending in Italy is like where you fell in love with screen printing.
Yes, which is
Yeah.
absolutely true. So I am kind of digging it that it does have a meaning. It's not just a made up like name. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, my life story. So Philly, and then I moved from Philly, and those bands that I ended up making posters for, fucking rad. War on Drugs, Kurt Vile.
Yeah, that's
all
crazy.
They were just like my circle of friends.
Yeah.
Who it just ended up that they got super famous, and I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, that was cool. So
Do they have any of your work still?
probably,
Yeah.
I mean, we still like keep in touch. Or at War on Drugs, I know them whenever they come to town, we
That's fun.
hang out. Yeah,
That's cool.
and then I moved to San Diego.
So when you started Butcher Press, were you like selling it on Etsy? Were you
I was like selling it.
just randomly at shows? Or?
Yeah, I kind of like hacked together a website, or I traded a bunch of my prints for a website to be made for me. And I was rolling on that for a while, just as like, I didn't really sell anything on that, just sort of more of a showcase. I could sell, but no one knew who I was. And then I do random like pop-up stuff and stuff like that, and word of mouth and
Yeah,
friends.
the grinding and the work in the beginning.
Right.
Yeah.
The stuff where you're just like, oh, hope this works.
Yeah,
But also
yeah,
having
yeah.
other jobs, and like that's the passion project on the side. And
Yeah.
yeah. So
Always balancing and hoping that the one gives so you don't have to do the other.
yeah. So, and it took me, fucking 25 years for that to actually just happen
Yeah.
last year.
Well,
But it's
I get into this
awesome.
conversation a lot, and I started Never Again when I was 28. I'm 42, so like I've stopped once for the death of somebody, and when I took that break, I didn't know if I was going to stop, and then I was obsessed, and it was the way I was thinking. When I'm sure it's you see things, and it's like, oh, I can do that, I can do this, and then when I realized that like that's what I wanted to do, I kept going, and I haven't stopped every day, been obsessing about this since I was 28. And now, like I said to you before, it's like it's paying off. Like, but it is true what anyone says. Like, you have to put the work in. I didn't know what the work would give me.
Right.
I just did it, and then now, you know, I'm able to open a restaurant. The podcast is semi-successful enough that I can live off of it, and then my apparel, I can make a little bit off of that. But all that work allowed me to live for myself, and then now, you know, it was not easy, and there was more times that I wanted to hang it up than,
Yeah.
hey, this is cool. You know,
Right.
it sucks going to a convention and sitting there and nobody buys anything.
Right.
And that ride home is awful.
Yeah.
I'm
And
like,
you're like,
sometimes I
"Why?
call my
Maybe
mom.
I made a horrible
How did you
mistake."
do? How did you do? Tell me you made a bunch of money. And I'll be like, nah.
Yeah.
You know, and then sometimes in the early days, it's like people don't believe in you. And they're like, well, you know, maybe this isn't what you should be doing. It's
you
not
should
fun.
look into teaching.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you say it takes 25 years, it does.
Yeah. We're on the same trajectory, because like I think 28 is when I really like was like, okay, I'm going to try and make this a company. And I'm 41 now. So it's like, it took that long. And it was also like, I didn't have some like specific goal that I was looking for. I was just like, how can I
Yeah.
be an artist full time? How can I make that work? I don't know what that looks like, but like, I'm going to try all these avenues. I'm going to go to art fairs and see if that's the way to make money, or, you know, it's
Yeah, I mean, I tell everybody, and I had this conversation the other day, is like, I failed every way possible, that eventually you fail so much that you come to a specific time in a year where it starts working because you failed every way, and then you just know not to do that because you've did it
deduced
wrong.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. So then eventually you're like, oh, all right, well, I'll do it this way. And then you just keep, you know, it's like a Rubik's Cube for 25 years.
Dude, totally. Like when you were talking about your t-shirts, because I had a run where I was like, okay, I'm going to make t-shirts. I'm going to print them myself.
It's hard to sell apparel.
It's hard. Well, not only because you don't think about like, oh, you need this design in 4 different sizes. Are you going to have women's sizes? That's 8. Now you have 8 SKUs or whatever. Oh, you're going to do kids like of just one design. And then you have all this inventory because you're like, I'm going to sell a shitload. And then you don't. And you're like,
now you
what
just
do I
have
do with all
inventory.
this yeah. And you spend all this money. Yeah, and then you're like, oh, okay, I learned
Or
a
like
valuable lesson.
sometimes we're like, let's say you go and you sell a bunch of prints, and then you're like, hell yeah, I'm going to do something different. And then you take that money and you invest it in something else, and then you go do it again, and it doesn't work.
Right.
And then now you have no money and a bunch of stuff nobody wants to buy.
Yeah.
And then you're just like,
And
cool.
you're like totally disheartened.
Yeah. And then like I look at social media in a way that like I look at my own stuff from a viewer. So like I am not going to overpost something and try and oversell it. Like if it didn't sell, it didn't sell.
Right.
Like we hang it up and we try and figure something else out, or we save it and take it somewhere else. But I'm not going to keep posting the same shit every day to a point where people don't want to watch my stuff.
Right.
So I'm realistic on the window you have for sales too, which isn't big. It's a month.
Yeah.
And that's
then
if
you
like by
want
the
something new. Yeah.
4th week you're like, hey, sorry, here's this again.
Yeah. Just in case you missed it the first 20 times.
I know these algorithms. Yeah. 25 years, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. So 25, that seems like too long. But yeah, I guess it is. Since
I'm
like
terrible
college.
with math.
I don't know. I'm only 41, not 50. So I didn't start when I was 25. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then I moved to San Diego, had a couple kids
Yeah, well, let's get into that. So where did you meet your husband?
in Philly. We met in Philly and we lived together there, and we were like, and we got married, and we were like, oh, let's look for a house.
Was he into
here.
art and things?
No, he's more techy.
Yeah. Kind of balances things out, though.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just be like fighting.
No, it was like, it was helpful. It definitely was like a balance.
Can you make my website?
Yeah. Help me with this. So, yeah, so we were looking at houses in Philly. We're like, this is a great when you're in your 20s, but do I want to live here forever? So we kind of just landed on San Diego. My parents...
Were you ever there before?
No, but my parents are snowbirds and they go out there. So I was like, okay, my parents will be there. Jose, his parents were in Las Vegas, so that wasn't too far from San Diego. So it was like, okay, let's move here. And
yeah, that's conveniently cool.
yeah, and it worked out. I mean, we're no longer together, but like, thank God I got divorced in San Diego because I'm kind of stuck there because of kids.
Yeah.
And I love it there. But it was like it was
How many kids do you have?
2 kids,
Nice.
12-year-old girl and a 8-year-old boy.
Nice. Got
Yeah.
both out of the way. My
Yeah.
mom tried and tried and tried and got 4 boys.
Yeah.
We have 6. She has 6 granddaughters now.
Oh, well, there you go. It worked
Cursed.
out.
My cousin Brian finally had a boy, and the Feuerbach name will go on. And I think it's better that way because, like, any boys that would have came directly out of this gene pool, I don't think it would have been
One removed.
doing anyone just good service in life. So I was like, oh, he's like super normal. Like,
Yeah.
oh, okay,
We did it.
Yeah, but my dad was like super pumped. Like
That's
that
awesome.
meant something to him.
Yeah, the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's cool that you had 2 kids.
Yeah.
Are they into art?
They're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter more than my son, but yeah. So there, I had kids, and that kind of like consumed me, and I sort of stepped back from art. I was still doing it on the side and trying to like.
Was there a big art scene there? Like, did you see it when you got there?
Yeah, I mean, it's like a small art scene.
Yeah.
Because we got LA, that's where a lot of the bigger stuff is, but it's there if you like look for it. But I was always on the outside because I had kids. Like, I just wasn't able to dive into socializing and going to all these events and everything. So eventually, and being like a stay-at-home mom wasn't, I like going to work. It was great and awesome, and I'm glad I got to do it, but I also felt really kind of depressed and didn't know why. So I got a job. It was just going to be like a 1 or 2 day a week job at Trader Joe's, just to like socialize. And
Yeah.
hey, life's okay. And I started working there, and I fucking loved it. Like,
What did you do at Trader Joe's?
Immediately, I had a family and friends, and it was just, I worked like regular crew member, they call it. And then I was like, every Trader Joe's has an art department and their own private little art department for each store. And I knew that existed, and I was like, I want to be on the art team, because they make all the signs for the store, all the shelves, everything
I love that
in Trader Joe's is handmade.
Yeah, I love that you're finding that like everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like
cool.
all my jobs have been art jobs, even Trader Joe's. And so I worked my way into that. I just kept bugging them and being like, hey, can I go make some signs and stuff? And eventually I got to be on the art team, which was a group of 4 of us, and such a rad group. And
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure there's creative people that work there. So were the other people you're working with really into art?
mostly everybody that works at Trader Joe's has their own cool side life.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Makes sense.
They're
Yeah,
creative,
yeah.
and Trader Joe's is their bill paying thing,
Yep.
and they're in bands. They're like,
Yeah.
do stuff. So
Probably like Waggies around
yeah,
here.
like somehow that's, I think, how they maintain the cool, like, hiring of people, because people that work there also have interesting lives that they want to like do, and so therefore they're happier to be at work.
I think there's a Trader Joe's around here. I'm gonna go check it out and see if it's like that. It's probably not.
No, everyone will be like, why is everyone so friendly? It's fucking weird.
Just enjoying their life.
Yeah. So that's where I met my art team, and one of the dudes on the art team, Bo, also had a side life where he paints murals and does cool stuff. So I was like, hey, can you take me with you to paint a mural? Because I always wanted to learn how to do this. I don't know how. And he's like, yeah, totally. So I would come and volunteer and help him paint his murals. And that, just doing that gave me the confidence to be like, oh, I could totally do this. Like, I understand how it works now. It's not as intimidating as it looks.
Did you like that style of painting, like the big murals like that?
Yeah, but none of my stuff is big like that. But I was always like totally enamored of like, wow, like how do you get something so little so big? And
I got the opportunity. A friend of mine, he has passed, but it's Forever a Time, and I was living below Nats at the time, and I was just starting Never Again, and I got introduced to this tattoo artist and graffiti artist, Joel Say-One Santo, and he was talented enough that in Brooklyn, before it was painted over, they had 5 Points, which was like basically the largest graffiti. It was whoever painted over it lost in a lawsuit, because at one point it was considered the largest outdoor art mural. Like, it was recorded and was known as like an actual like a museum almost.
Sure, like anyone who was anyone would.
Yeah, so like there was people who ran that, and then you couldn't just go down there and paint. Like there was this guy Mears, who one day, I keep going after him to get on the pod, but if I want somebody on, I will go tooth and nail to get them on here. So he was in charge of it, and you had to be who's who to get on that wall, and he asked me to drive him down, and I went down and I filmed a couple of them, and I turned them into videos way before I even knew what the fuck I was doing. Like, that's what people are doing now. So like, it's cool to still have the footage, but that was my first time where I was introduced into large format, like where they, roll the whole wall out white. And then I was always obsessed with graffiti. I was always obsessed with how it looks and like how it perfectly suits the atmosphere of the city. And like, it looks like it should be on a subway. And it looks like I'm never one to be like, man, somebody shouldn't have done that. Like, I feel like there is, like, when you go around a corner and there's graffiti and then there's like green grass and life growing through it, and like, that is like some of my favorite art, is like stuff that looks abandoned, and like inner city stuff and graffiti and all that. And like, when I got to go with somebody I never painted them, but just to film and be a part of a large all day long in the city, and like he had this thing. We went to Gray's Papaya, and like we got hot dogs and ice cream on the way home, and like he was obsessed with it. And then like I took him almost every Sunday, and it was something that he needed to do. But like seeing somebody put out a large mural like that from start to finish is pretty fascinating to watch, and it's motivating to be around somebody who's creating publicly that large.
Right. And you can watch their like vision come to life.
Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
Cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, murals is it's super fun. And
what kind of stuff was he doing at the time?
he was doing a bunch of murals at schools, like schools that would have those wall ball
Yeah.
He'd paint them and make some, the school would come up with some inspirational sayings or whatever, like never stop whatever climbing or whatever, and then he would draw them out, and it was super cool and cute and very like kid friendly, and it would change the school. It would just having cool art.
They do a lot of that in Easton.
Yeah,
it looks really cool the way they do it. Like they'll just take a side of a building and like let a kid or an artist come in, and it's even, I mean, just from somebody who's taking in the city and walking around and shopping, and like, to me, that's so needed and important as atmosphere to like make you feel like, hey, we are doing this. It's a community thing. It takes kind of the corporate aspects out of stuff. And like, you know, a couple of my friends live over in Easton, and like when you go down the one alley, there's like this huge thing, and then you get to the public market, and they just put this giant mural at the public market, and it's just, to me, it's just, I don't know, it's cool.
Yeah,
I don't know, it's art.
It's art.
I love
and
it.
Like murals are interesting because I don't love every mural, but I love that it's there.
Yeah.
Like that, for exactly what you're saying. Like I'm like, it just feels a little less concrete.
Yeah.
Something
feels alive.
Yeah, feels alive. And someone was thoughtful enough to be like, hey, we need some art here.
Yeah.
So like, yeah. So right. So now I worked at Trader Joe's for like 5 years, and it was
that's
so
a long time.
Great. Yeah, wasn't it? It got me through like divorce, depression. It made me meet all these people that changed the trajectory of my life. Like I didn't know that I was gonna start painting murals.
Yeah.
Until I worked at Trader Joe's. Like what? And so I'm so grateful. I worked at a grocery store, but like it was more than that. God, I sound like I drank the Kool-Aid, but like,
I mean,
the people that I met there was like, it changed everything.
No, and I mean, I think it's important that you're even honest and real about that, or even bringing up the divorce. It's like when you're like living somewhere and you don't know anyone. Like when I lived in Virginia, it's like I didn't have any friends when I moved down there. And then like I hung out at the tattoo shop. And then because I just hung out at tattoo shops, and like I haven't gotten tattooed in forever, but everyone's like, oh, you have so many tattoos. I hung out in tattoo shops. When you're bored and there's
like, hey,
your friends aren't tattooing anyone.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to do this dumb tattoo on you? So like, you know, I met friends there, but I always missed home. And then like when, you know, you go through like serious life stuff where like a friend dies and you got to come home and go to a funeral, and then you go back, it's like you're still carrying that bullshit with you. And if you don't have any way to get that out, you know, you can only get so much out in creating before you burn out. But then like you need to interact with people, and you need to talk to people. And then like when you find that base and that comfort where like you're okay to make decisions in life that are going to better you, I think that's rad that you found that at Trader Joe's, let alone anywhere.
Yeah, it was purely just the right thing at the right time, and I'm very much like.
Were you there full time, or you working part time because of the kids?
I was there full time, and then it transitioned to a couple of days because of COVID, and they were out of school, so I had to stay home with them. And that's actually gave me the opportunity to do more art on the side, but while still having a job. So that was really awesome. And I'm very like, I'll tell you anything. Like if I feel like you're receptive to me, I will cry in front of you. Like I have no problem sharing like emotional stuff. And that sort of gang that I happened to work with everybody was just so like supportive. Like they hardly knew me, but they're like, okay. Like,
it's almost the perfect place to have gone, because I don't feel like you would have gotten that atmosphere at Lowe's.
No, I don't think so. First you have to find someone. to talk to. Then you can spell your heart. Yeah.
That's cool because I never thought about that. But yeah, I mean, that's probably a collective of like artists and people who are working. I mean, Starbucks is kind of similar where like, you know, I know a lot of people will pick that up just for the insurance.
Right.
But Trader Joe's, I never thought of it that way. But yeah, it's probably what a lot of it is because you can probably get your food there then because you're eating similar food because you're into that culture.
I eat is Trader Joe's food. Yeah. Like you just shop after work. It's really fun. You go
just
out
give them
with
their money back.
You're like,
they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they do. So I'm so grateful for that experience. And like I could spin it and feel bad or feel like working at a grocery store is kind of like, oh, I'm in my 30s and like I work at a grocery, but like fuck that. Like I had a cool job that allowed me to like meet cool people and do my art on the side, and it thrust me into this next level that I am now, where I quit Trader Joe's.
How was that quitting? Did you get emotional?
Like, yeah,
they probably gave you like a party. And
it was.
Someone
was like...
sung a song and played guitar.
Yep, it's kind of like that. No, it was emotional, and I was like, I might be back, but I gotta try this. I have to try this, or like I'm never gonna try it.
But that's the other thing is I stress to younger kids too is like when you work at a place like that and you don't burn a bridge, it's easier to move forward because you can go back.
Yeah.
Like with my cooking skill, I could move anywhere and cook.
Yeah.
I may not like it and it may not be a cool restaurant, but I can literally always stay afloat either bartending or cooking or doing anything that I've learned, you know, or like if you could go back to Trader Joe's or you could work at any Trader Joe's anywhere because you have 5 years under your belt.
Right.
So that takes a lot out of like, I might be back.
Yeah. Yeah, no. And I'm
it's way better, trust me, because I've left places and been like, you will never see me again.
Fuck you. And you.
Yeah, you're cool.
So that was like, I quit that a couple months ago and fell into it, timed right where I got a part-time gig about as much as I was working at Trader Joe's for this really cool nonprofit in San Diego that it's called Art Reach, and they go to schools, they write grants. Art is the first thing that gets cut from public schools, usually for budget reasons. So Art Reach has come in and is like, hey, we're going to make sure that schools have art classes. If you can't afford it, fine, we can write grants. If you have a little budget for art, we'll help work with that.
I'm surprised we had art at Notre Dame.
I know, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which was great. Like,
yeah.
I remember we went to like the banana factory.
Yeah.
I was like, that really like made me fall in love with art. Just having that weird little art class. Yeah. So it's the coolest program, and they have a mural arts program where they go to schools, send an artist to a school to work with the kids, do a couple projects together. Usually it's 5th or 6th grade, come up with like an idea for a mural. What do you want in the mural? You know, a lot of it's like Pokemon and
a shark.
Yeah. And then the artist absorbs all this information and comes up with a mural for the school. So it's done by an artist. So it ends up looking really professional, not
How'd you find out about this?
It was a girl I followed on Instagram, Izzy. She runs the mural arts program, but we always we were like, I don't know, we followed each other, and I was like, she looks really cool, and then she reached out and she's like, I think you would be good for this program, and it just sort of...
And that's when you were at Trader Joe's?
That's when I was at Trader Joe's, and I came and volunteered on a project, and I got along with everyone really well. Immediately, I was like, this is cool. And the coolest thing about going to schools and working is you're at an elementary school, you're working while the kids are in school, they're helping or they're just walking by going to lunch, but the whole fucking day is like, that looks amazing, you're doing awesome all day. Just pure encouragement coming from like a very truthful 9-year-old body of like,
kids don't lie.
They don't lie.
We run all of our food through my partner Gina's kids.
Yeah.
Tucker and Violet. What do you think of this? This sucks. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, I spent all day on that bagel.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Sucks. Like, sucks.
Then there'll be times where I'm like, you don't know shit, all right? A lot of people like these bagels.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, I love working with kids and that being in that environment. And you can see what it does. There's a couple kids that are always just like, wait, I can do this? Blows their mind. You're like, yeah, you can totally do that. You can absolutely do this. You can make a career of it. Don't let people tell you that you can be an artist.
Or anything. I had a conversation
Yeah.
with a friend recently, and he's in between jobs, and he doesn't know what he wants to do, and he was gonna do something, and he was gonna take a break, and he was concerned about what people would think. And I was like, dude, you're talking to the wrong person if you think that I'm not gonna tell you to do whatever the fuck you want to do. I was like, if I would have listened to anybody, I'd be stuck in a fucking job I hate. I said I wouldn't be doing what I love. And I said, don't get me wrong, people have given me advice, and I'm not saying that, but like there are also people who like negatively acted towards me in a fashion because they didn't want to even attempt to do anything. And if I would have listened to anyone, and I always bring this up with like, one, when I went from sobriety to drinking, the amount of heat I got for that, where like people made me feel so guilty, like that I was the only reason they were sober, or like, you know, there was a lot that went on there. And then like, you know, nobody talks about it at all, like what I'm doing from the moment I'm excelling at a higher level, and I'm opening a restaurant, and it had nothing to do with alcohol. And It's like, then you look at like the amount of people that were upset with me because I quit the post office, and like I didn't want to work there. And like sometimes when people say like, oh, I don't want to work at my job. No, like I mean it when I say that. I don't want to do these things. It's not me. It's I have to do something I want to do.
Yeah.
I cannot ride out a 20-year job to end somewhere.
Right.
It's just never that. And so I always stress that when someone brings it up is like, do not listen to anyone.
Yeah.
And if you want to start looking into something you want to do, whether it's creative or business or anything, you can figure it out. It's going to be a lot, and it's going to be stressful, and you have to make sacrifices. And there's sacrifices that I made here that nobody will make, but that's why I'm the only one in this position.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's things in your life that you've done that has landed you to where you are that most people wouldn't have done.
Right.
Some people probably wouldn't even have traveled, let alone did things that you took risks, or like to get it. You know, some people wouldn't take a job at Trader Joe's. 'Cause, oh, well, I'm better than Trader Joe's. Right. Well, what makes you better than Trader Joe's? Because Trader Joe's gave you an opportunity to make a move, to take a step to now where you're able to do what you love doing on a daily basis, and you have freedom.
Yeah.
It's like,
I know.
I hammer that anytime anybody brings it up. Like, you can literally do whatever you want. It's work. It's crazy. It'll drive you crazy if you keep getting at it, but you will get to a point where it breaks. It's not going to be right away.
Yeah.
And if it is, it's probably not going to last. So like, you got to put the work in, but like, you literally can do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want.
Yes.
And you got to find, and the more you do that, the more you find those other people out there that are doing it. And
it's my favorite part of interviewing everyone.
It's awesome. And those are the people that you need to like hang out with and listen to, because they're like encouraging, and they know that anything's possible. And
I'm sure you probably went through it where like my conversations I used to have with everybody about my business and everything, because you know, in the beginning it was a passion project, so you're passionately talking about it because you're frustrated and you're like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Now I don't really talk about this unless it's other people that are coming on the show or other people that are running a business, and then I don't really get into this with my friends who aren't, because I'm at a point where it no longer makes sense to them, and then it only makes sense to like my buddy Zach, who runs the jiu-jitsu school. I talk to him at least once a week in the evening when he's like walking his dog, but like it's refreshing to talk to somebody who else is building something.
Right.
As opposed to somebody from a 9 to 5 is going to give you a perspective like, well, I don't know why you're doing that anyways.
Because they're too scared to do it.
Yeah. Or, you know, they just want to do that.
Exactly. Which is fine.
I do not.
Just like, yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So where are you at now?
So
So you're doing the murals, the
doing
kids stuff.
kids murals, and I make blankets. I design blankets that are made.
Well, let's back it up a little bit.
Okay.
So
Was
now,
that our timer?
no,
Or-
you're fine. I mean, it is the timer, but we're good. So you started getting in with the murals, and you left Trader Joe's, and now your full profession at this point is working for.
I'm just freelance art. So I do the.
Did you start doing that before? Like, what were you doing at Trader Joe's? You had to have been selling those kids prints.
Yeah, I was selling prints.
So you're building the business
I
at
was
that point.
building it because I had the freedom to do that. Because also, like, that job was sweet because as soon as I left work, I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So it didn't weigh down on me. So I had sort of the mental space to work on other stuff.
And you're not burned out.
Yeah. So during that time where I worked at Trader Joe's, I got into the blankets and I started.
How'd you get into the blankets?
So, total.
And thank you for bringing that. You didn't have to.
No
I was
problem.
planning on buying one.
It was just, I can't believe my luck. But one of my old Philly friends, Jeff, his wife, her dad runs this knitting mill in the East Coast, and she was like, you should reach out to my dad. He sometimes works with artists to make blankets. Just to call him. He doesn't email.
The quality on that's exactly what I thought it
Oh,
would be.
it's so good.
Yeah. But it's hard to sell stuff like that.
It's hard to show that.
Because of the quality. Like when I first started getting into apparel, the hardest thing was letting everyone know that it was top brand t-shirt material.
Yeah. Yeah, like I can't tell you, those weigh like 3 pounds, but I can't show that in a photo.
I'm
It's
super
so
excited. Like as soon as I touched it, I was like, new blanket.
Yeah.
The polar bear has been what I've been using for forever. So like
nice.
that'll now be replaced. Dennis, I'm sorry. We are now
take
going to be,
turns.
yeah. But I'm excited. Like I was like that is the perfect like couch or like
throw.
blanket on top of your bed. Like that. I'm so excited to use
Yeah,
that.
it's rad.
Yeah.
The place that knits them is the 100-year-old knitting mill, the family run.
I figured it was something like that.
Yeah.
I figured you weren't getting it like from Etsy.
And
or,
they used to make sweaters. That
Yeah.
was their thing. They made sweaters.
that's why.
And
Yep.
they switched to just making blankets and
But that feels like a sweater, but they're
Exactly.
just basically making large sweaters.
large flat sweaters.
Yeah.
Yes. So I talked to the guy and he made me a blanket and I was like, holy crap.
Which one did you do first? The cactus?
The sea monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I launched it. I just put it on Instagram and people went like crazy for it. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I just started designing.
What was that
more.
like for you to be able to take your art and then now move it in another direction in a new palette and not be doing the screen printing, but be able to take the idea of it and dump it onto something else?
It's a huge relief. I mean,
Yeah.
I love screen printing, but it's so much work. Mixing paints, cutting paper, it's everything. And now I just design what I want the blanket to look like. I send it over to him,
And that's going to be fun for you to be able to have like a new
medium.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he just sends me a box of blankets and I'm like, this is so awesome. It's
Yeah.
so easy.
Was he pumped to work with your designs? Was
he's
he like,
super
yeah, this is
cool.
going to be really cool?
He's amazing. He's so encouraging. And like, I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to market these. And I really just love making the art. I struggle with the business part of it,
Same.
which is normal. Like you can't be good at everything. But so that's what I'm working on most. Is like, okay, now how do I launch this? I'm selling them here and there, but I need to get them. I need volume. I need to
Yeah.
get them in like cool shops and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just have to hustle and do that.
Yeah, and like that, because like when I first started, I was at Nats, and I had left the job in a terrible situation, and Nat and Sue like really took me in, and I was in a really weird space. I was like a year in sobriety. I was dating a heroin addict, and I was living above a bar. It's a cool start to the story. The
Trifecta.
book will be cool. I don't know what I was thinking, but Nat pulled me aside and was like, "Hey," he's like, "you don't have to." I love Nat. He's
love
like,
Nat.
"You don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore." He's like, "Get out of here." And then I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go, because I didn't want to go home because I was living in my first apartment. And that first apartment was the first thing I ever got to paint. Like, whoever moved in there next, like, I heard them bitching at the bar, like, because I did all my trim black. I did my doors black and red. I got black carpet.
God,
like,
killed you too.
I put a giant DC logo on the side. Like, I had control over everything, and I did whatever I wanted in the bathroom. I had a Tuscan villa where, like, I took like those wall murals, but it was like over like a vineyard. And then a friend of mine was like, oh, let's go down to the art store, and we bought fake vines and we connected them from it was I have no pictures. It was at a time where you couldn't. No, it was the first time I ever could express myself artistically.
Sure. You had your own space.
Yeah. So, like, I did not want to go home. So Nat was like, look, he's like, I have this apartment. It's available underneath me. And then that was like the first time I was actually like living somewhere. And when I moved in there, I had to start doubling down because I was no longer getting, like, I was making like $600 a week cash just from bartending, and then getting a paycheck for managing the kitchen and the bar. So, like, it was a lot of money to be giving up, and I had to go back to cleaning toilets and trying to run Never Again. And that's where I was at, where, like, you have to sell yourself to shops because Instagram wasn't available then. So I literally drove around in my white Subaru. I had a dog that I had to put in a crate that ended up ruining Nat's carpet. For the better, it does look better, Nat, with the floors now. But I knocked on doors, and I didn't want to do that. And I went into Action Wheels. I went into Penn Skate. I went into Amateur Athlete, and everybody loved everything I was doing. But I was like, how do I do this? And Chris was like, well, I have to make money. You have to make money. You have to sell them to me for this. And he explained the hustle to me. And then, like, it's not, you have to be in a very specific mood, or you have to force yourself to, like, get your products in shops.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do, and it's not a fun time. And it's another thing where you could be walking out of there and be like, oh, they didn't want any of my clothes.
Right.
Or they'll be like, hey, let's do consignment, which helps no one.
Right. Yeah, a lot of consignment. Yeah. So, yeah, that's where I am. That's where I am right now. Like, I have the mural gig, which is fun and fulfilling, and I have all these awesome blankets. They're so good. They're, like, super rad. I'm very proud of them.
Well, when I saw you do them, like, the monster was cool, but when the cactus one popped, I was like, oh, these are, like, you have something.
Yeah.
Like, and I believe it'll eventually go to where you want it to go. But it's like anything else. I understand what that journey is going to be like for you. It's not going to, it's work.
Yeah, it's not just going to fall
it's
in my lap.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's like, I
just want it to fall in my lap, but it's not going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just have to figure it out. And, like, I stubbornly want to do it myself. But there's part of me that's like, I'll just hire someone to do this, because there's people out there that this is their job. But I don't have the money to hire someone. Like, I'm still in that weird spot of, like,
and it's also, I get like that, and what I'm going to be doing next is, like, and then sometimes you're like, well, I should be the one selling it because it's mine.
Right.
And I'm the one who's going to be able to explain what this is, not someone else.
Yeah.
And then that's hard to, like, let go of the art. Because there's a long story from you where someone else is like, hey, do you like these?
Right.
Which would probably also work.
It'd be fine, yeah. But I know that I sell, part of people buying the blankets is meeting me and, like, and seeing them in person and the whole experience.
Yes.
And yeah, so it would be, I sell the most when I'm there with the blankets at, like, an art show or something. And that's when I do the most. But they're so hard to do. They're a pain in the butt.
Yes.
Like,
it's a lot. It's a lot. That's why, like, I'm done with the pop-ups.
Yeah, and I don't want to do, like, that's not the direction I want. I don't want to be a pop-up salesman.
No.
Sales lady.
So before you did the, because when I was following you, like, there is a long time, or not long time, but, like, you were doing your prints for a while.
Yeah.
And, like, moving that, and then, like, so you have that as a business that you're moving your stuff through Instagram or whatever it connects to. And then you brought the blankets out, and then you're kind of focusing on that a little bit heavier then.
Yeah, because they're just easier prints are. I still sell my prints and I still bring them with me to like art events, but they're just physically they're harder because they're in frames. There's glass. Like blankets are just like
probably easier to ship
and
too.
they're easier to buy because they're gifts. People can buy them as gifts for other people, whereas art is a little more like you don't know if the person's gonna like it, like you like it, or so people buy art for themselves usually, but blankets for other people, and people buy more for other people usually. So I think I'm just gonna go hog on the blankets and like
I think that
I
should be your
also do
slogan.
this stuff, but like
we're going hog. When you were doing the mural where you were on your back.
Oh yeah.
And watching that was really cool to see you start doing art that large. How did you get into doing that? Was that part of the mural job, or was that a side thing?
Purely, I went with my friend Bo to do some murals. And that was my only mural experience. And then one of my friends had a boutique shop in Little Italy in San Diego, and there was this electrical box outside. It was so ugly. It was tagged, and it was just not in a good way. And I was like, I'm gonna paint that for you. And went through the neighborhood. They're like, as long as it's Italian theme, no problem. I was like, oh, okay. And so that was the biggest thing I ever painted in my life. It was probably like 5 foot.
What did you paint?
I painted a dog, a cute dog.
Oh, that's the one where somebody finally had the dog.
Yeah,
that took a
match.
picture. Yeah.
A dog on one side that was saying ciao, and then a cat on the other side. And then on the two long skinny sides, it was like an Italian facade of a building.
I like that you asked everybody in the neighborhood.
Yeah. So as I was painting that, a guy walked by, and he was like, "Do you do this?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, I do this." He's like, "Well, I have a Airbnb, and maybe you can paint by the pool. There's a wall." And I was like, "Sure." He's like, "How much will it cost?" I was like, I'll have to see the wall. Like, I have no, I was like, I have no idea how much it costs. Like, I'm doing this thing for free. So I ended up never doing that, but we got in touch, and he's like, well, I have like a restaurant in La Jolla. Maybe, I want you to come and paint a mural on the wall. And I was like, okay. And that mural turned into like basically painting most of the restaurant wherever. What about this here and this here? And I was like, cool. And he was rad. And so I did that job, and I was like, okay, cool. Like I'm painting murals now. I have stuff to show.
And you got paid to do it.
I got paid to do it. And
you start knowing your worth.
And he's like, he is so rad. David, he is sort of like my, what's the word? Patron, right? He just like believes in me, loves my art. So he's like, I want you to come to my house and paint the ceiling. And I was like, oh.
What did you do at the restaurant? Because what I remember was like there was a lot of green and vines.
The first restaurant was just little murals here and there, like a jungly mural, some writing, just little decorative pieces. That was his first restaurant. He owns a bunch of restaurants. Then I painted his ceiling, and then
What was that like?
That was crazy.
Yeah.
It was. I never did that before, but I was like, yeah. Yes, I can do it. I just keep saying yes.
Yeah.
And then I find people and they're like, Katie, you can totally do that. I was like, I could totally do this. And so I went to my Trader Joe's art team and I was like, what do you think, guys? Can I do this? And they're like, you can do it. And it was like, and they helped me and like they lent me scaffolding. And so we just came up with this pattern. I basically painted wallpaper on this guy's ceiling, which is huge. It's probably like the size of this studio.
Yeah, it was a lot. Because watching you do it, you just seemed so exhausted by the end.
I was like seeing, it was pattern of leaves.
Yes.
And it took me like, probably like a month. I was there all the time. I had some friends help me, but I laid on a scaffold. It was probably like 2 feet from the ceiling. I just laid on my back and painted. I only cried once in the middle. Nobody was home, but I was like, what am I doing? Like,
yeah, it's got to be overwhelming and it's claustrophobic.
But then I did it. I finished it, and it was such a good feeling. And I was like, I painted a fucking ceiling. I can do anything. And
Yeah.
then he's like, Katie, I have another restaurant downtown. I'm going to need you. So I took two months off Trader Joe's, leave of absence, and just painted this restaurant.
So this is before you left Trader Joe's.
Before I left Trader
Yeah.
Joe's, and I was like, I think I'm moving in this direction, but I don't, I still want to like keep practicing and learning. So I painted this huge 7,000 square foot restaurant, tons of murals. I had my Trader Joe's team. I farmed them out. I was like, you got to help me. They came and helped me paint it. Another ceiling, 2 ceilings, a huge wall mural. This tequila locker, which is, I never heard of this before, but basically it's this huge, giant piece of furniture with little doors on it, wood. And if you go to this restaurant enough and you're like a baller, you get a locker and you put your liquor in there. Then when you go, you're like, you can make my drink with my liquor. And then, like, yeah.
Yeah.
So this huge
I was gonna
cabinet.
tell people I have that.
Yeah.
What are you doing at the new studio? Tequila lockers.
Yeah,
Tequila
don't worry about
lockers.
it. $500 buy-in. It's fine.
The locker's always empty.
That was crazy. It was like painting a huge piece of furniture. But I did, like, every time I do this stuff, I'm like, I can't do it. This is crazy.
Yeah, you
And
can
then I
push
do
yourself
it.
through it.
Yeah, and I figure it out. And I'm like, I've never painted text before. And then I talk to someone who knows how to do it, and they're like, this is how you do it.
I love, how you pointed that out, because 90% of everything you've said down here is you figured it out.
But I ask people.
Yeah.
I get help.
Yeah.
Like, I don't figure it out by myself. I'm like, hey, you did this before. How do you think we should approach
But
this?
it's a part of figuring it out is asking people their opinions and getting information from them and finding out what needs to be done. And like, there's so, like, right now with the restaurant, like, I'm in over my head. I've never built a restaurant before, but I'm just like calling Sal from Giacomo's. Hey, what did you do? Hey, talking to Kevin Patton because he's opening a second restaurant. And then you figure out how to do it, but it's like, I am shitting my pants on building that and getting it
feels
done.
so
I know I'm
overwhelming.
going
Yeah.
to, because you get to a point where I'm sure you're at now is like, it's now like you're like, oh man, you're gonna make yourself do this. It's like you don't have control over it.
Yeah.
You just do it because you're built that way. It's who you are as a person.
Yeah. And I want to learn and keep pushing myself. So like, and that's the only way to do it. And there is a magic to saying no to some projects, which I'm still learning.
Well, what I learned too is like, whose project is it and how horrible is it going to be to work with them?
Right.
Like, I've worked with some terrible people, especially when I got early on into apparel and like was doing that for a living and was like, outside sales for a business. And then like, I worked for a guy that was a nightmare. And I remember driving home and like, at that time, it's like I had an old pickup truck and was like, it was a couple months out of the post office. Like, I was still green and scared. And I just remember like, you get older, you look at things differently because you've lived long enough. And I remember driving home being like, I'll never have anyone who will ever be that difficult to work with. And I'm glad I got it out of the way now, because now I know anyone who remotely gives me any aura of it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not working with
Yeah,
you.
totally. And then you figure out how to like trust your initial gut feeling on
Yeah.
someone and be like, this project's not going to go easy, not going to be easy or whatever. Yeah. And you're always right. Even when you say yes to those, you're like, God damn it. Like,
Yeah. You always learn something too. It's like, even like when I say it's terrible to sit at a pop-up and not make any money, like there's pop-ups I go to now where like I'll do food and then I'm like, all right, well, what came out of this? Because like the ride homes do suck. And then it's like, all right, well, I did networking. All right, well, I met this person that wants me to do catering. All right, well, I got social media and you got to feed the algorithm. Okay, well, this person came out and they're asking about T-shirts. And like there's always something to get out of everything.
Even if I've never didn't make money at a thing, I've made connections.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got some sort of knowledge.
And I learned that. There was a
Always.
couple guys on, like I did a couple conventions in Baltimore and New Jersey, and New Jersey was terrible. That I lost thousands of dollars on, and I remember talking to the people there, and they're like, it was early on in my career of this, and I needed money, so you're focused on money. And it's like, I don't really focus on money now because what I got out of this was freedom. And what I get to do for a living is sit down here with you. So it's like, to me, that's worth more than money, but you still have to build a business around it. So like back then it was like, oh my God, I need to pay my bills. Where now it's just like, cool, like let's get by and let's figure this out and let's breathe a little bit. But like, you know, I learned that from listening to people who like are on the tattoo convention circuits, and they're like, hey, you can get other stuff out of this besides money.
Right.
You can get connections, and you can find a cheaper way to get your shirts made, or you know, or my problem too is I would make money and then spend it all on art, and then I would be like, cool.
Like while you're there.
You're like, Sweet, I just made it happened when I bought that Doberman. Like that was basically my cut of the day.
Like,
Someone was like, how did you do? I was like, cool. We didn't sell all of our burgers. We made enough that it was worth it, and then I spent it on art.
Yeah.
And broke even.
Yeah. Fine.
So you leave. So you did those crazy murals. You're building up all your self-esteem. You're running the thing now, and where you're at, and we're kind of caught up currently. And then I'll just kind of wrap up with like you and like what projects you're looking to get into and like what you want to do next. But like, where are you at now? Like, you're just heavy going into the blankets and just trying to figure out a better way to sell them, and just kind of like, you're doing a good job so far, like branding them and like how you did the photography with them, and like everything you're doing is correct.
Right.
Just keep going.
I'm just, and it's all like phone pictures, or like I set up my phone and like lean it against a fucking potato or whatever's in the kitchen.
It's
and,
all
like,
I do.
Self-timer.
Buy a better phone with a better camera.
Yeah. So it's a total labor of love, and I'm loving every minute of it. And like, I think that I want the blankets to take off, but I'm loving painting murals. I want to do more of that. Sort of like, I have a couple gigs in August when I get back.
So how do people find you? Through
everything's word of mouth. Yeah.
So then you work for the mural people, and you're just doing that. And then because you're doing that all the time, you're obviously doing murals a lot. So you're kind of known for doing murals.
So now I have like, this girl can do murals. And I've done a bunch of freelance random ones at restaurants, at a bar being the exercise where it's like ballet and Pilates sort of thing. So I did one there, and just people going there and seeing that one, my name's at the bottom really little, but they contact me and they're like, hey, can you do it here? So I just get business from, it's all word of mouth at the moment, which is awesome. Cause I also am just me. I can't handle that.
Yeah. Much. And those projects probably take a long time. Yeah.
So I'm totally like, and it's up and down, there'll be like this month, I didn't do anything. I came here for 2 weeks. I haven't really.
Do you always come home for 2 weeks?
No, this is rare.
Yeah.
I dropped my daughter off at summer camp, the same summer camp I went to when I was 12.
Nice. Yeah, so she's here for a 2-week summer camp?
She's here at summer camp, so I was like, I'll just hang.
Do you have to pick her up, or is she like there for 2 weeks?
I'm gonna pick her up on Saturday. Yeah, I haven't heard from her. Hope she's fine. Yeah, it's sort of like off the grid.
Yeah.
Camping.
That's cool.
Stuff.
Do you like coming back?
Yeah, I love coming back. My whole family's out here. I have friends and stuff, so it's just nice. And it's really nice I forget how lush life can be, or like the surroundings, and
it's unique, especially if you leave for a while. Like when I was in Virginia, you have to leave for at least a year.
Yeah.
When I was in Virginia for a year and came back, I was like going around the circle, and I was like looking at the architecture that you're used to. Like, it's cool at night here. I do like how things look, and I always like the church is lit up, and Easton always looks cool, but like I'm in Nazareth constantly, and it's hard for me to look at it that way. But when you leave and come back, you see what they're trying to portray, which is like Smallville.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to, you can't, especially coming back from San Diego, which is so different. It's like desert, to here. And I'm like, oh my God, this cute little quaint town with a circle in the middle. And it's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm stuck here. I tried to leave. And then like I got older, and then my brothers had kids. And then I was just like, I don't want to be the uncle they don't know. And then that's like kind of when I wrapped my head around it. And like, if I would have left, like, your story, you left young and did stuff in your 20s, and like, I didn't really get my shit together till I was 28. So when I started like traveling and doing stuff and trying to leave the area, I'm now in my 30s, and then like it's harder to like adapt to things. And then all of my core friends and family and people who were like fucking with my business were all back home.
Yeah.
And it was like so strong back home. Like people, like I was just moving and like genuinely like my friends were upset. And then I was just like, oh, like this is, and then when I left, I didn't realize that like that's how I felt leaving them. And then like it kept pulling me back.
Yeah.
I definitely want to like travel. Like I went out to Vegas, and I fell in love with that city like a date. Like that was like finding a girlfriend and like having butterflies and going on a Ferris wheel together.
Oh my God.
I love Las Vegas. I've never been so distracted I could pay attention. For somebody like me, I went there and my mom was like, "How is it?" And I was like, it's the first time in my life I could pay attention because there's so many distractions.
That's
She was like,
crazy.
"Oh my God, I'm so happy." But I mean, but it's the truth. Like I went there
That's
and
fascinating.
it's calm.
Yeah,
Because
calm
I'm
for
just
you.
boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. But when you have that much around you,
Yeah.
it's
You
normal.
can like zen out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then I didn't mind the heat. I thought my fucking groundhog ass was gonna die out there. The dry heat treated me
heat.
well.
Yeah.
It's not. Then the last couple days when the humidity hit here, I was like, oh, it's the humid.
Yeah.
The groundhog
I think
doesn't like the humidity.
It's the humidity.
Yeah. What do you plan on doing coming down the pike? I know you got your blankets, but like, what do you see coming down? Do you want to do something else besides blankets? Like, what are your goals right now?
I think that what I'd like to do is just keep doing murals and do like a big, like I've never done a huge mural where you need like the lift and stuff. And that seems like something I don't think I can do. And therefore, I want to do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do that. Like, where do you go to rent a lift? Do you need a license? Like, it feels so overwhelming that I'm like, I'm never going to do that. So I want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have you do something, whether it's in the studio or like when you started talking about that. Like there's definitely places I know from the graffiti artists where like if you came home and were like, hey, I'm going to come home for 2 weeks, can you find me a spot? Like
Yeah.
I could definitely find you
Okay. I
a
would
spot.
love that.
Whether we work through something where we can find, because we could probably find a building that we could do on the side of Nazareth. But if that isn't going to happen, then I can probably get you into, I would be able to find you a spot
Okay.
that like when you come home, you can paint.
I'm down. That
Yeah.
would be so fun.
And I want to find something in the studio. I'll show it to you when we go over there. I got an old phone booth, and I want to redo it, but I don't know how I want to redo it. So I want it to be in the corner of the room, so when all the lights are off, it's lit with like an old lamp, so it looks like it's in a street. So it's like lit, like
yeah.
if you would be out. So remember how phone booths used to be lit?
Yeah.
That's how I want it to be lit, but it's an older one. Like it's almost like it looks English style, like where
Yeah.
you go in on it, like
Cute.
yeah. So like if you see that and you see a vision with it, maybe we can do something where we can do something with the wall and like incorporate the phone booth with it.
Okay.
Like that studio is going, like, this is cool, and I didn't know what I was doing and just bought a bunch of shit, but like after being down here and understanding what I'm about to do, I really want to make it like come on, like I want it to be like Disney and like Pee-wee's Playhouse, where like you go in there and like you feel like you're outside, or like you feel like you didn't, like it's odd to have walked into it.
Okay.
Like that was my favorite thing about Las Vegas. Like we went to this place called Ghost Donkey, and there was a food court that has all these different restaurants, and then at night they're obviously all shut down, and my buddy's like, we're walking through the casino, and he's like, we're going through the food court, and he's like, there's a stencil of a donkey on a utility door. It's just a door like that one there, except for you just like it just looks like a utility door that would go into a mop room.
Sure.
And he's like, open this. And I was like, no. And he's like, push on the door. And I go, you push on the door. And he goes, push on the fucking door. And I push on the door, and we went into an elaborate speakeasy that was slammed with people, and is this hidden bar, and you walk in, and I was like in the middle, I think there was like a tree that they had, and it went into the ceiling, and there was lights everywhere, and it was like lit by like a mood.
Yeah.
And I was just like taken. It's like you're reading a book, and
You're
you know
like
when you
transported.
yeah, like when you read, and it's hard for me to read often because I'm so distracted, but like when I read and I'm locked in, you go somewhere. And like when you create an atmosphere in a room like that, you go somewhere. And like I want to do that in like every aspect of the studio.
Yeah.
So like to work on something, because it's going to be a long work. Like for what I want to do, I want to do every single nook and cranny and start in a corner and then just bleed all the way over to the other side. And I'll show you what I want. Like the kitchen's new. So like I want that to be bright and vibrant and sunny, because it's like it needs to grow. And then the living room is going to be relaxing. So from the sun, then the middle I want to be calm, like a sunset. And then where I record this needs to be dark because it's going to be lit. So then this is going to be my evening. And I want the whole studio to breathe like it's a day, sunsetting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally insane. And
I'll come help you.
I'll show you
Yeah.
when we leave this, but like I want to get like artists involved, and like there's a couple people that like if I pull the right people together, like I had this guy Barry on, he's like this older guy, and he used to work on like sets for like I don't know if it was Disney or something, but he used to help build sets back in the day for stuff. So like after he was on the show, he was like, hey, he's like, I would work with you. And I have all these different artists and people who came on the show that would want to work together, and I want to like pull all those resources and really make a ridiculous thing. Because in the beginning I was going to try and do a glass wall, and like now I don't want that at all. Like I don't want anyone to know what's going on in there. I don't want to be bothered, and then when people come in, I just want to be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can do that with art. You can do that with like, you know, making something look like it's not supposed to do. Like I think that's why like I really like Banksy's stuff. Like it's just very bizarre, where he'll just like, you know, bent the telephone booth over and then just like put it in the street and then just like drive away. Like I really like just changing a mood and an atmosphere. I was in Disney years ago, but like I want to go back because I have that feeling is still there, where like it takes you, it doesn't feel like you're there.
Right.
And that was very similar to Vegas, and that's what I want to do at the studio.
Okay.
I'll show you. I'm rambling.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming
You're
on.
welcome.
I've been wanting to pick your brain, and anytime you come home, we can do this again. It would be cool to work on projects, anything at all. If you need help with the blankets, or if you're ever like stuck on an idea and you just want to phone a friend, I am now part of your
We're friends.
Trader Joe's. I am now
Yay.
part of the team. So if you ever need anything, any resources, hey, I'm thinking about coming through here. If you're coming through town and you want to promote blankets you're doing, I can cut all this shit up into social media that you can push through your thing. I'm a tool in a sense, not of an idiot, but I can help you in any asset possible. I want to give you a chance to plug your social media any way anybody can get a hold of you if they want to check out the blankets, the artwork, everything you're doing. It's so awesome. So I'm going to give you a chance to kind of go through that now.
My Instagram is the thing I update the most with like what's going on, and that's at Butcher Press, BUTCHERPRESS, and my website's butcherpress.com. That's all I got at the moment.
Cool. Go check that out. If you're a first-time listener, first-time watcher, it's neveragainstudio.com. That has everything on there. It's the audio, the video, the clothing. You don't have to leave that website to listen or watch any of this. If you want to, we're almost done. I'm lucky just that happened. If you want to, I won't have people above me in the next studio. If you want to check out anything else on YouTube, I have more content on there, and you can subscribe to that. We're almost to the point of monetizing it, so check that out. There's lots of new stuff coming. Thank you so much for stopping by and making time. I've been wanting to do this for months.
Yes, thank you, Mike.
That went so well. That was so cool. You've done so many cool things.
Beat Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.